Tony Gallagher says self-awareness is not something we are taught to understand. No, it's not. You know, I don't know, maybe kids at school nowadays are starting to have a little bit more thinking process, a little bit more personal growth. I think that's starting to come into the curriculum a little bit from what I understand, Tony.
Look, I'm not sure, mate. I don't know if it is or it's not. Sorry, I've just got a whole heap of birds surrounding me here. That's exciting.
You are good with the animals, mate. You are like the bird whisperer or the animal whisperer.
Dr. Doolittle. Yeah, so...
that's it.
So, look, I don't know if it is coming into schools or not, but certainly with my kids, encourage them to sit with their thoughts. Easier said than done, of course. If it comes from Dad, what would Dad know? Of course, he's just an old fuddy-duddy, right? But I mean, the point is that you want to constantly get people to sit with their thoughts. I've been very fortunate. I think I shared here recently that from time to time I'll have different friends of mine ask if I could have a chat to their child. I recently spoke to a friend of mine's 12-year-old son, and he was going through some bits and pieces. And look, the message is effectively the same. Obviously, you dull it down or tailor it to suit the person you're talking to, but effectively, it's sit with things. It's sit with some thoughts. Give yourself the space. That's the thing. Again, from a kid's point of view, they've got computer games and socials and all this stuff. Pressure, peer pressure. And I think back to my own, we didn't have all these computers and phones. We certainly had plenty of peer pressure. We certainly had plenty of bullying, all those types of things. As you come into an adolescent, you've got all sorts of hormones going on, etc. So it's about give yourself some space to sit with your thoughts and just see what comes up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see... I think it's just the devices and the games and just different things that has changed, but ultimately it's the same sort of thing that is happening around. It's probably a lack of self-awareness and the more dwelling, more sitting with things, the overthinking that does come around for individuals. And I guess awareness that other people are struggling through it and people are, whether they're actually thinking about themselves, am I going through the same thing as other people that I see on TV or that I see with friends or see with family members? Am I having the same struggle as them?
Oh, look, one of the things, Luke, that so firstly, the answer is yes. Yes, we all do. Right? Let's not try and pretend that we don't. We all have fears. We all have insecurities. We all have tough days, good days, etc. One of the things that money does not differentiate. The number of wealthy people that have sadly committed suicide indicates to me that money, fame, celebrity it's got nothing to do with it. At the end of the day, we're people. We all have the same stuff going on, and we have to look after ourselves. We have to be kind to ourselves. And if we feel that something's not right, one of the great things today in 2021 is that there's so many more opportunities for us to reach out, to have conversations with people. It might be paid professionals, it might just be friends. The topic of mental health is so much more commonplace in 2021 than it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And so it's important that we have those conversations. But no, if you see someone on TV, look, half the things that you see on TV are fake anyway, probably more than half of the things, right? So the reality is that deep down, we're all human and we all have the same mind and we all have the same human frailties.
Everybody has a story, Tony. Everybody has
look at all, even if it's not suicide, look at all of the famous people who are caught up in drugs, caught up in alcohol, caught up in substance abuse, caught up in domestic violence, whatever it might be. Fame and celebrity does not exclude people from this. We're all humans with human emotions. We all have things go well, things go not so well, and it's about how we deal with it. And obviously, the whole purpose of this show every Sunday is to provide people just a little slice of something to help get them in the right frame of mind for the next 7 days.
Sean says, the more ourselves we are, the more hands move around. So that's a great... He's talking about your hand movements. Tony says, yes, Scott Pape, Barefoot Investor, has an RV series in teaching kids his thoughts on money. So hopefully that will help those kids, which is great. I guess in a money mindset side of things. Bullies at school helped me develop my skill of peripheral vision. Interesting, Tony Gallagher says. And Sean says, completely agree. Get rid of the TV. Don't need it. And we've got our awesome Luke and Tony show right here. Beats normal TV, hands down. Absolutely. And Tony says, sports TV. So, Tony, moving along with the topic of what type of thinker are you, I guess how deeply are we thinking through our struggles, and how long are we dwelling on those things? You know, look, I volunteered at Lifeline and, you know, spoken to different people that will sit there and dwell and dwell and dwell and dwell day after day after day after day. And that's an extreme, well, you know, I'm not going to say it's extreme circumstance of what does happen. So having that self-awareness early, having that ability to really like sit with it, but as well as not dwell, can really have a significant, you know, process in terms of getting ourselves to a better state.
Well, to me, Luke, in that instance, it's about the questions that we ask ourselves. Obviously, you've got someone around you, that other person asking you questions, but the questions that we ask ourselves, because you can't always rely on other people. Questions such as, why am I dwelling? Questions such as, what am I dwelling on? How is this serving me? What am I missing out on because of the dwelling? You know, there's a whole series of questions that I get my clients to go through whenever this comes up, because ultimately we want to get to a point, get them to recognize that whatever's happened has happened. Like it's sometimes it's shit. You know, like there's so many things that happen in my life where it's like, my gosh, that's dreadful. But if I sat there and dwelled on it for far too long, then, you know, you wouldn't want to get out from under the doona. So it's a case of asking yourself a series of questions to then help you move in a forward direction. This is all about getting people to move in a forward direction. Better questions equal better answers, which means that people can then take action towards where they want to get to.
So the simple side of it is, Tony, the dwelling, you know, you're going down, 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 right? We want to elevate people. We want to get them, even if it's that small, minute movement upwards.
Well, by going down, 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 that's what you think about expands, right? So you start to dwell on something. It may start off this big. You dwell on it a bit more. It's this big. Sorry about the use of my hands, everyone. It may get this big, right? But the point is that the more that you dwell on it, it's going to expand out. That's where asking great questions is going to almost be like a little break in there to just stop you in your tracks and say, okay, what am I dwelling on and why am I dwelling on it? Ask yourself that question. Try and get to the bottom of the psychology of what it is that you're actually doing. Why are you doing the thing you're doing? Then ask yourself, well, how is this serving me? Like, there's obviously a good reason or a benefit for you doing it, because remember, from a mindset point of view, we either seek pleasure or we avoid pain. So why are you doing what you're doing? The other then is to ask yourself, what am I missing out on? What's the opportunity cost by me dwelling and looking backwards and wasting all that time, or not wasting, but spending all that time on dwelling and looking backwards? What am I actually missing out on? What opportunities am I leaving on the table? They're just a series of questions that you can ask yourself.
I guess it's also about realizing for yourself, how are those pain points or those struggles actually going to serve you now and into the future?
Yeah.
I guess the practice of being in that struggle process right now might mean that you're better off in future when another struggle comes up. Or what is that struggle going to mean to you now to drive you forward to a future venture? You maybe you're in a situation where you shouldn't be in right now. You don't realize it until after you come out of it. And you pivot around because of that struggle comes up. You've pivoted into something else, something new. You're testing, trying something, something new for yourself, and you actually succeed at that new thing. But you wouldn't have left that old thing until you went through that struggle. It's kind of like when we talk about people coming out of their 9 to 5 or coming out of their job that they really hate. They're sitting. It's until after that they get the pressure from someone at work, or they're not feeling where they are at that moment. Then, you know, shit hits the fan. Then all of a sudden, then they make the move.
Well, it's the pain. You know, pain is a great thing, because pain encourages us to take action. And the saying is, change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the change itself. So changing is hard. Whenever you do something, it's hard. You've got to be clunky at it. You're not going to be very good at it. But if the pain of staying the same in the same situation, going to the same job, doing the same stuff, going through the same issues all the time, when that pain becomes greater than the change, well, then that's what will spark you into action, So it's about having that. And that's what happened to me, way back at the end of 2014, 2015, when I decided to go on my own journey of transformation. The pain of staying the same became too much. It was all too much for me, and something had to give. Now, I'd had plenty of false starts before that. I was sort of building for me, but it wasn't until 2015 when I got a bit fair dinkum about it, and here I am some 6 years later. The other thing I'll say is that along my journey, I am so much more resilient today than I was 6 years ago as well. And particularly, a lot of people will know that I'm in the property development space, not just as an educator, but I'm actually in it. I've got some sites, and there's no shortage of challenges, good, bad, ups, downs, etc. And I won't bore people with all the specifics, but I can assure you that my resilience levels in 2021 are here, whereas in 2015 they were probably about there. So having gone through all those things, I continue to go through them. I'm coming out the other side stronger, more resilient, and a better person for doing them.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean says, life is trial and error, like the old dating days before Kelly. Keep putting yourself out there till you get the results you're after. In my case, to find Kelly. Anyway, we should not talk about that topic. I don't know where it's going to go. But I think, when it comes to those pain points, or maybe of those, those painful dates that Sean had before he sparked having that love he found with Kelly, brought him closer to where he wanted to get to. So, and I think those pain points do serve us, and understanding that those pain points are a good thing for us. Maybe not at the time when we realize, but if we are sitting with that issue or struggle, that we do realize for ourselves, how is that pain point going to serve us into the future in another year or 2 years? Will we actually think about that issue or problem or pain point in 2 years' time or 5 years' time or whatever? Tony?
How often does that happen? How often, and this is where anxiety kicks in, and anxiety is real. I'm certainly not here to downplay the significance of anxiety, but how often does it happen when something's in front of you and you blow this thing up in your mind to be so ginormous, and then you do it and you come out the other end of it and you go, oh, that wasn't that bad. That wasn't that hard. And a simple example for me is whenever someone comes onto social media or comes and does some public speaking. I'm very fortunate. I've been doing this for a long time, so these things are, it's all fine for me. But for others, they blow this thing up in their mind. They make it bigger than what it is. But then they get to the other end, they go, oh my gosh! And how often, like Luke, you interview a lot more people than I do in the social media space. How often is it that people beforehand are quite nervous and anxious, but then you'll interview them after the interview, once you've shut down, it's like, hey, when can we do that again? Oh, I'd love to do, I'd love to come back again and and I love it. I love to see the shift in people, but it happens all the time. And so it's about recognizing that, yes, the default will be, because you have a negative bias, to lean more towards the fearful, the anxious moment. But we all go through that. And it's about pushing through that. That's where you build the muscle, build the skill to do that.
Well, Tony, we do appreciate the good times more when we reflect on those struggles. Without those good times, without the bad times, the good times might not be so good.
Well, another saying, I've got a lot of sayings today, but another saying is easy come, easy go. And that, I don't know if people have heard that, but if something comes too easy to you, then you don't appreciate it, right? You get a bit complacent with it all. And I suspect there's a lot of people, let me use something quite topical in the cryptocurrency world at the moment, where it's like, oh my gosh, we're making all this money. But then the reality is that there's been a lot of people who have just followed. And I'm not saying, there's plenty of people who made money, and good on you for doing that. But I reckon there's a lot of people who've just followed the herd, and they've been caught out, and they haven't, had the appreciation, gone through the hard times because it came to them easy. it's gone easy as well. Whereas when you work for something, you have that appreciation, that gratitude, and the victory tastes so much sweeter, I can assure you. And we see this in the sporting arena as well. Like, let's use something quite topical, and this will help all you people south of the border. Is that New South Wales has worked incredibly hard, and I dare say, the comments by Darley Cherry Evans last year on the accepting the shield has spurred them on. Well trained, and victory for them is so much sweeter because they've gone through many years of hardship at the hand of Queensland. So well done to New South Wales. I hate that even come out of my mouth, but well done to New South Wales. We'll edit that out.
I guess, how can we make the small shifts if we are, depending on what type of thinker we are, how can we make those small shifts? Thinking about, are you, thinking, do you need more thinking? Do you need more allowing? Be in a situation of surrendering more or acknowledging what you're going through more?
Well, we talk about it here, Luke, in regards to so many different topics, and we call it +1. +1. Don't get caught up in the January the 1st syndrome and go, right, I've never done any thinking before, but I'm going to be thinking for half an hour for 7 days this week. It's not going to happen. I can assure you it's all going to come crashing down. But if you have never thought before and you say, I'm going to give myself a minute today, tomorrow I might give myself a second minute, the next day I might give myself a third minute. Now over a period of time, you've got more sustainable change. So that thinking or methodology applies to everything. It applies to exercise. It applies to, and I'm deliberately doing it, Luke. It applies to exercise. It applies to relationships. It applies to your business, whatever it might be. It's about always +1. That is a far more sustainable change model than going from nothing to a massive change.
Yeah, well, we've always used the analogy around running. Like, I run 7Ks every day, but you don't start out by running 7Ks.
No.
You start out by running 100 meters, and then you do that over a couple of days, and you increase to a kilometer, and then just move yourself forward. Don't go and run a marathon.
Absolutely. Well, let me share a story with you. And my wife, who doesn't follow me on social media, she won't see this, so she won't mind. I'm feeling big and brave now. But a long time ago, she hadn't moved for a while, and she'd put on some weight. She ran around the house. She literally didn't have the confidence to go out in the street. She ran around the house for a couple of minutes. You know what I mean? And a couple of minutes turned into 3 minutes, turned into 5 minutes, turned into, eventually she then got to a point when she was running, 10, 15 Ks, right? So the point is that she didn't start off trying to run that level of distance. She simply ran around the house to get herself started. So wherever you are, that's your line in the sand. Just do +1. It doesn't have to be an exercise thing. It might be doing a sales call thing. It might be, it might be from an educational point of view. It might be a thinking point of view. +1. Always just think +1.
And I guess, Tony, if we're in that deep thinking position, we also got to think about changing our physiological, I've lost the word, changing our state, I will say. And you can do that by getting out there for a run, just jumping up and down. Motion will change our emotions, like the great man Tony Robbins does say, the other Tony does say about it. So just think about doing that. You can, you may be in a thinking state. You may want to just jump on the spot for a minute. And then you may be back in that thinking state. You might have to go and do some star jumps. You may be back in that thinking state and you might go out for a kilometer run. So it's testing and trying all these different things to see what works for you.
It doesn't even have, absolutely.
Back to that self-awareness.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a run. It might just be stand up. A lot of us are in jobs where we're sitting down, we're very stationary during the day. So it might be a case of, if you're at your workplace, stand up, walk over to the water cooler, come back, or grab a coffee, come back, or whatever it might be. You don't have to think of it as exercise. You might just simply, like you're saying, Luke, it's about changing your physiology is the word you're looking for, about moving just a little bit. Just moving a little bit, because that change. How often, from an email point of view or from a thought point of view, does it happen? I don't know if you would have heard this advice, Luke, but certainly I give it to people where it's like, if you've got to send a it might be a sensitive email or whatever, type the email up, save it in draft, get up from your desk and walk around, or maybe if it doesn't have to go today, review it first thing in the morning when you're feeling fresher, then press send on that particular email. It's about giving yourself that space to come back at it and look at it more objectively, because quite often at that time, you've got smoke pouring out your ears and there's emotion coming through as you're slamming down on the keys. So getting up, moving, will, as you rightfully said, change your state.
Yeah, and look, even for me, each morning when I get up for a run, there is a situation where I go through where the negative thoughts come about. I sit there and dwell. It might be for a minute sometimes. Having the pressure to have something to go to, like this morning, getting ready for the Sunday mindset session prior to 8 o'clock, meant I had to get up. But on the days that I don't have to get up, then you can sit and dwell in those negative states a little bit more. So we all go through it, is the message. We all go through this thinking process, but understanding who we are, and I've understood who I am over the last almost 1,300 days in a row of running, you start to learn about how you can improve yourself that little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit. Tony, any final thoughts as we wrap up the Sunday mindset session today about the type of thinker that we are?
I'll just give yourself the time, Luke. That's really the big thought around thinking, is allow yourself the space to sit with your thoughts. Again, you can come to a park like this. I'm using my hands now. You can go to your back deck. You can go to the beach. You can go wherever it is, but allow yourself the space. That's one of the big things. Shut down the distractions, your phone, your telly. If others are annoying you, just take yourself, even if it's for a couple of minutes. You know what I mean? Grab a cup of coffee, grab your notepad, and just go to a quiet space for a couple of minutes.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Thanks for joining all the comments, and hopefully you can think about what type of thinker that you are. All right, over and out, guys. See ya.
Bye.
Have a great Sunday.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.